Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Ruchita.
Yeah, hi.
I think welcome to the course, and wanted you to introduce yourself regarding your background knowledge. I just wanted to check, and yeah, I think over to you, so you can quickly introduce yourself along with the academic background.
Yeah, can you just give me a moment?
Yes, sir.
I'm Ruchita. So I've completed my master's in business analytics. As a part of my curriculum, I've learned Python, R, Big Data, Hadoop, and AWS. Before that, I've worked for 2.5 years, where I've learned. So I worked as a system administrator on Windows and Linux. Hello.
Sorry, I was muted. So yeah, good to know that. So you have done masters, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. Masters and
Masters in Business Analytics.
okay, masters in business analytics. Okay, so you graduated from which stream?
Uh, like, are you asking the stream?
Yeah,
Like data science
subject.
track and uh data science track, but my major is business analytics.
Okay, okay, major is business analytics. Okay, okay. So prior knowledge in programming, you don't have anything, correct?
So I know a little bit of Python and R.
Oh, Python and R, okay. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Then I think it will be easy for you to learn. Okay, so today basically I'll be taking you through the Python only. Means the the top view of the Python I'll be showing you, and then uh, actually this is a demo session only. So in that we can actually cover out and outer part of the Python, means why Python is important, why we actually wanted to learn Python, and why it is different from other languages. There are various programming language which are means nowadays in the market. So why everyone is actually interested to learn only Python, not about other language. So we'll be covering all
Okay.
these topics. Uh, Sorry for the background noise.
Yeah, no problem.
So basically, you are from where? Uh,
From India?
oh, you are from.
Are you asking? Yeah, India, Hyderabad.
Oh, so currently you are located in India as well, correct? So,
Currently I'm in US.
oh, that's what I wanted. So you are only connecting with the other, with the-
Sorry?
somebody else is joining with your name. That is you only, or
I'm joining through my laptop, another laptop.
oh, okay, okay, okay. So yeah, I think I'll share my screen, and I think we can start.
Yeah, sure.
So let me share my screen. Is
Yeah.
my screen up?
Yeah, I could see your screen.
Okay. So actually, I'll start with the language first. So I think Python, I think you already know it's a programming language. It's nothing, not a day-to-day language that we actually speak. So it's nothing, but it is similar to that only. So we use language in order to communicate between people. But I think programming languages are there in order to communicate between the system and the people. Okay, so this acts as an interface between them. So you give some instruction to the computer, and then computer get to know about the instruction, and then it gives you the desired output. So that's how it behaves. All the programming language, if nothing is specific to any Python language or any other language. So all programming language works in the similar fashion. Okay, so I think we are writing some instruction and it is given to the computer, and then computer actually decode that language and it gives you the output, whatever instruction that you give it to the computer. So this is how it works. Okay, and so now coming, okay, we'll first discuss about the other languages that you know. What are the languages have you heard till now?
C, Java, .NET, C Sharp.
Yeah, so Java, you know, C Sharp already you have heard, and C also you would have heard of. Okay, C,
Yeah.
yeah, and also there are C++. So they all are kind of language only, but I'll ask you a general question. So if one language was already fulfilling all the requirements, then what was the need of actually having so many language? Can you guess?
The complexity of the code decreases with Python when compared to
Okay, so you are actually biased towards Python, correct? So uh,
not towards Python, like even
because
but like
you have little
easy
bit
to
knowledge, yeah, a little bit background knowledge you have on Python, so that's why I think you are
yeah.
favoring Python, correct?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think definitely if you would be knowing some other language, so then only I think it will be easy for you to compare among the languages, correct? If you don't know other languages and you can't compare among the languages, so that's the means that will be a completely biased opinion if you are giving about Python. Okay, so I'll tell you means what are the challenges in other languages and why people actually many of the people wanted to switch back to Python. So I'll start from the very starting. Very means I think for the very beginning we were having C, also not C. Before C also we were having Pascal and Fortran something. These kind of languages. They were actually those programming languages were written just to do the calculative work. Okay, so I think we were having huge calculation to be done. So I think those languages were helping us to do all those heavy calculation, complex calculations kind of thing, like a calculator does. Okay, so all these things were actually done with the help of those older programming language. So thereby, just after that, actually, we started with the C also. Okay, then C was actually uh, C actually helps us more, and it also started to solve other problems like to interact with the computer to give the input and get the output. So such kind of operations actually were performed with the help of C. So C was actually better than all those previous languages. So likewise, it actually started growing. So now if you see, still the languages are coming, new languages are coming. So it's always whenever we have a new language, so definitely that is solving some of the problem which is not solved by other already existing programming language, correct? So this is how a programming language evolves. Okay, so I think in the C it was actually very hardware specific programming language. So if you have your machine like Windows or Mac OS or some other operating system dependent machine if you have. So C language was actually this hardware dependent. So you need to write certain code, and that will be specific to that machine only, that operating system only. So likewise, after C, that C++ came, and then also along with C++, Java I started. Okay, so when Java came, actually it took over the means majority of the problems, and it solved all of the problem that we were having in C. And C++ and Java, they both are object oriented language. Means object oriented, they deal in a object way. Means object oriented is you try to communicate with the problems in the form of objects. So that is what Java solved. The issue was solved with Java. And then I think after Java, we were having JavaScript, we were having .NET framework developed by Microsoft, and then we started with a Python. So all these languages were already there, and then also Python introduced itself. Okay, so when Python came, actually people were already using this Java and C++. They were very comfortable using that, but actually the main problem was to learn the syntax that you write. Okay, so if you are trying to write something, if you wanted to print something like your name also to the console, to the system, and to get the output, so for that also you need to write a complete syntax. So you have to follow the complete syntax of a Java or C++. You have to write a big file in order to get a simple output. So these were the challenges, not a challenges, but I think Java was built in this way, or C++ was built in this way only, that you have to write all these things, then only you'll get the output. But then Python, when Python came, it actually started like, yeah, you just simple write a single line and it will give you the output. So this much easy it was. So actually people started migrating to Python because it was easy to learn. So that's the main advantage, I think you would say, for Python. Okay, so in Python, people wanted to print something, so it was simple. Just go and write print a statement on the console, it will give you the output. You need not to worry about the syntax, like you have to follow that at the end of the statement you have to put the semicolon, or you have to start first in the, you have to write certain statement inside some curly braces. So all these kinds of complexity were removed from the Python. So that's why people actually started loving Python. So this was the main reason. Okay, I think, yeah, Python is developed newly, but uh, already Python still it's not able to solve all the problems that are actually being solved by Java currently. Okay, but still it is trying, and also Python is open source, so it's uh, has rich set of libraries actually people are actually using. They are also means third-party libraries, and also people are developing in the day-to-day life. They are developing the modules and giving the support to Python. So all these kinds of supports and the documentation of Python. So it is getting richer day by day. So okay, if you talk about Java and all, so Java and all, most of the companies, IT companies that you see, so when means older companies I'm talking about, so they have already started using Java. Okay, and then when they develop their software, and then when they develop their application using Java and all, so what happened that their code base was basically on the Java, and now in order to switch from Java to Python, it was a very cut means uh, costly to actually migrate from Java to Python. So that's why I think most of the companies are still on the Java, and I think you would be seeing, I think the demand grows like this only. So if a company is actually working on Java, they will always hire a Java student. They will not hire Python student. Okay. So now if you I think if the companies are starting freshly, so they will definitely go to the Java, and then they will see their requirement, and then they will choose the language. Okay. If Python is chosen as a language, then I think the demand of Python increases. Okay. Then I think it was not in the terms of programming language only, but in the fields of data science. If you see machine learning, deep learning, uh, and also AI, at all these places, I think Python came as a winner. So because of the libraries that it supports, okay, the mathematical computation and all mathematical libraries that Python has got. So nothing, all these libraries are not there in the Java and all. So that's why when we go in the fields of data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence, everywhere Python is there. Why? Because Python has been developed in such a way that uh, it is useful in all these domains. Got it? So that's why Python evolved as a
Yeah.
programming language, and also was in much demand than Python, much in demand than Java, C++, or .NET. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So any confusion? So do you feel like any question, asking any question?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Okay. So now I think it was all related to the language and why Java is actually preferred. So now I think selecting a language, I think you selected a Python as your programming language. So once you choose a language, then you should know how this language work, or how this language behaves when I write something. What is the syntax of this language? So all these things actually it will come by practice. Means when you start writing a few lines of code, I think you'll get to know how it behaves. I think to know the behavior of a programming language, it's much important than learning the syntax of the programming language. Okay. So learning the behavior, by this I mean that if you write something to the Python editor, so what output it actually gives you. So that is what knowing the behavior of the language. Okay. So the same line, means the same line of code, if you write in another language, you will get different output. And the same line of if the same line is written in Python editor, it will give you different output. So you can't just learn the languages, you'll have to practice it. And also I think you'll have to learn the behavior of this language. So that's the most important point I think I would like to tell you. So okay, we'll actually start with the uh, breaking down of the codes, and how the codes are broken down into the lower level code, and how computer understands the language and how it gives us the output. So this is actually uh, I'll tell you starting from the beginning to the end. Means you write certain instruction in the editor. So that is a very high level language. I think that you understand. Okay. While you write something on the console, or when you write something on the editor, I think that is for you. For it is easy for you to write that. Okay. But computer does not understand what you write. Actually, you write it. You'll write certain statements, which is actually for very easy for you to decode. But I think computer will not be able to do. So what computer can understand? It can understand only the machine level language, like 0 and 1. Okay. So 0 and 1, that is binary language. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a machine has to understand 0 and 1s only. So whatever instructions that we write on top of the computer, so that has to be broken down into the machine code, that is 0 and 1s. So, and that is also called as byte code. Okay. So I think if you write uh, certain okay, I'll talk about some general language. Okay. So you study some grammar in order to learn the English. Correct? So
Yeah.
for every language, I think there is a grammar. So you will have to learn grammar, and then only you will master that language. Correct? Because without
Yeah.
learning the grammar, you can't master a language. Otherwise, you'll make certain mistakes, like you'll not be able to pronounce certain things correctly, or you'll not be able to you will not be able to frame certain sentences correctly. So that's what actually happens when you don't know the grammar. So that's what is with the programming language as well. So I think whatever rule, whatever syntaxes they are there, so they are actually the grammars of the language. Okay. And that you need to that you need to learn. Okay. And once you master over them, I think then you'll be able to write those language. Okay. And then once you start writing the language, then you'll start getting the output of those language. Correct? So then I think uh, suppose you recently you learned Chinese. Okay. And then you started and you are a beginner in learning a Chinese. Okay. And then when you started going and talking to some Chinese people, And I think when it will be actually, when you will be confident, like when you speak something in Chinese and other Chinese person is able to reply back to you, so then I think you'll come to know that yeah, I have learned Chinese correctly, because I'm able to understand and also I'm able to speak it correct. So that's
Yeah.
how you come to know that yeah, I have learned it and also I have mastered it. But if you start, you learned everything, you also learned the grammar, and when you went to the Chinese people and you started speaking, but you are not getting the same response as you're expecting, so at that time you'll come to know that yeah, means there were some flaw, could not get the language correctly. And now I think either I need to do it again, or either I have to learn it again, then only I'll be able to. So you did not get the correct output, so that's why you were actually, you will feel that yeah, means there is some problem in my learning. Okay, so this, the same thing also happens in this programming language. You will learn Python, and you will learn the syntax, you will learn the rule, but you will, when you will start writing the code, you will not get the expected output. You will write something in the editor, but you will not get the desired output that you want. So in that case, what you will feel that yeah, means I learned everything, even then I am not getting the correct output. So what means, what I'm lacking, what I'm actually I could not get at the time of training. So all these things, all these questions you will actually get. So that's why it is very important. So our end result is what we need to write programming language, and we should be able to get a desired output that we wanted. So this is our end result that we want. Okay, so in between that, we need to learn the grammar and the rules, correct? So now, before
Yeah.
going to the grammar and rules, the first step is to know how this means writing of a language is actually giving us the output. Okay, so I think this is very general topic. So I think if you have if you have a prior knowledge on this, can you elaborate? Or if you don't have any knowledge on this, I'll explain. Correct. So you know how a programming language is getting broken down into machine language, and then you are getting the output.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you explain?
Like first, whatever the code that we have written, it is converted into machine level language.
Mhm.
So that is understandable by the machine, and then the compiler will like a compiler will run the language, and it will like it will understand whatever the language it is given, and it executes the code.
Okay. So yeah, you have the knowledge, but it is not in a sequential way. Means you know that this is done, but you don't know when it is, when what is the sequence of this breaking down of the code. Okay. So I think you are correct. A compiler has to work in the backend, and definitely the code has to be broken down into the machine level code. Correct. So I'll actually just correct you. Means, uh, in a more proper way. Means actually, whenever we write something, so I think if you in exam also, if you write if you are given to write a frame a sentence, so you will just frame a sentence, and then some evaluator will come and he will evaluate your sentence, correct, whether you have written a correct grammar or not, whether certain mistakes are there, or it will check for the syntax error, so such kind of things. So first of all,
Yeah.
these things happen, and it is actually then it is actually processed, and then you are given the marks, correct? So same thing
Yeah.
also happens here in the code. So first of all, you write certain code in the editor, and then what happens in the backend, there is a compiler or there is an interpreter. Okay, so there are two kinds of thing, interpreter and compiler. So they both actually process the code, but there is a difference in processing. Okay, I'll tell you the difference. I'll tell you the differences. First of all, we'll learn means how it processes. Okay, so what actually compiler or interpreter does is actually checks your code line by line. Okay, and it actually finds out, it tries to finds out the mistakes or the syntax error, or the means incompatible variable, or some means I think some reserved keys that you have defined. So all these kinds of check is performed by the interpreter or the compiler. Okay, once it processes this, then actually what happens, so all the code that you have written, they are actually broken down into subcategories. Subcategory means keyword, identifiers, all these are the subcategories of a language. Okay. So what compiler will do, it will check for the syntax and then it will break down all these subcategory, all these codes into their subcategories. And then what happened? A syntax tree is prepared. So syntax tree is prepared means, I think, means which code has to be executed first and which code has to be executed at the last. So all these kind of calculation is being performed by the compiler. Okay. And then at last, so whatever means code is broken, means was passed, means passed by the compiler. So what compiler does is actually breaks down into the intermediate code. So intermediate code is nothing but a byte code. Okay. So then after that is which after it is converted to byte code, and then we have a Python compiler PYC. I think, I don't remember the exact name, but I think there is another intermediate compiler. What it does, it actually breaks down its byte code into a in the form of zeros and ones, and then actually it is pass on to the system. Okay. And then actually we get the correct desired output, so that we want. Okay. So this is how a high level language is converted to low level language. Okay. So whatever we write, that is high level language, and the language which is actually processed at the computer, so that is a low level language. Correct?
Yeah, got it.
Any confusion?
No, good.
Okay, so now I think we already talked about the processing of the language. So now we'll talk about what is the interpreter and what is compiler. Okay, because we use this term in our previous topics. So just now we'll actually get to know what is interpreter and what is compiler. Okay.
Yeah.
So actually, when I told you that it processes the code, means the complete code. So there are two ways of processing the code. Either your code will be processed once at a time, or either the code will be processed line by line. Okay. So
Yeah.
when your code is processed once at a time, so that is done by the compiler. And if your code is processed line by line, that is done by the interpreter.
Okay.
Okay. So interpreter job is to check your code line by line, and as soon as it finds any error at any line, it will stop then and there only, and it will stop the execution of the code, and it will throw you the warning or throw you the error like yeah, you have error in this line of code. Correct?
Yeah.
So this is what interpreter does. So if you see if you see my screen, I think I have already written the definition. An interpreter is a program that executes the written in a high level programming language by translating each line of code into machine code on the fly, rather than compiling the entire code into machine code before execution. Okay. So it does it by line. Okay. Are you getting?
Yeah.
Okay. So interpreter reads the source code line by line and analyzes it and immediately executes it. Okay.
So the translator is one which converts code into like high level language into low level language. Is it correct? Or?
Yeah. So translator is all. Sorry, not translator. Where I use translator?
Like I'm just asking.
Okay.
Here it's only interpreter and compiler is there.
Yeah, here it is only interpreter and compiler. Same. Interpreter is actually same.
Like interpreter and compiler, they only like convert the code into high level to low level language, or
Yeah, they
is there
execute
any
your
other?
code. Yeah, means whatever you write in an editor, so it takes those lines of code as an input, and it is passed to the compiler. I think if you talk about C, you have, for every programming language now, you have a compiler actually in the backend. So Python also has got their own compiler.
Yeah.
Got it. So I think if you talk about C,
Just
so
the difference is sorry.
Yeah, tell me.
Just the difference is interpreter scans like line by line, and compiler it does the whole together.
Yeah. So actually in Python, we have Python is an interpreted language. Okay. I'll tell you, means
Yeah.
in later section we'll learn what Python does, how it actually compiles and all. Okay. So
Okay.
yeah. So first we should know what is interpreter and what is compiler, and then we'll go what is Python. Okay, means how Python behaves. So interpreter, what it does the compilation of the execution of the code line by line, and it executes the code without creating any executable. Executable, you understand?
Sorry?
Executable.
Executable.
Yeah. So like if you would have seen in
Like,
your system also .exe.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so they are executables. So they are executables means they are the output of your code, correct? So any desktop application or any icon that you see over your machine, okay? So they all are the executables that are compiled by some programming language, okay?
Okay.
So now you'll tell uh, how this is actually means how this is created, and means like that is an output of a program, you can say that is an output of a program, and that output you can run multiple times. I think if you are installing certain software, so you can install a software multiple times, correct? You need not to go to the source code and compile that code and then you have to get the output, correct?
Yeah.
So interpreter is what I think I have written a statement here, like the interpreter reads the source code line by line, analyzes it, and immediately executes it without creating an executable file.
Okay.
Okay. So what does this mean? It will not create any intermediate file, means that file or an output file that you can run later on. Even if you don't have the source code, you can click on that and it will give you the output. You can't do that in case of interpreter. So it does not create any executable. Okay. So like if you compile a C# code, okay, so it will create a DLL for you, means the binaries, the libraries for you. That libraries you can use anywhere. Okay. But in case of interpreter, it does not do that. It will not create any libraries, or it will not create any binaries. It will not create any executable. Okay, it performs the same function as compiler but in a different way. Unlike a compiler which translates the entire program into machine code and produces an executable file that can be run independently, an interpreter executes the program directly from the source code. Are you getting?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this is the difference. I think you find it in the compiler. Okay, so
The
also,
inter
okay, so interpreted language such as Python and JavaScript. So now I think you will ask the question, Python is an interpreted language, correct?
yeah, does not have any .exe file. And
So in Python, if you compile a source code, now, I think all the source codes are in a .py file, correct?
yeah.
Yeah. So if you compile a Python file, or if you compile a Python file, you won't get any executable after that. You won't get output also. You simply either it prints something, it will not give you an intermediate file which you can run it again and again. So if to run a Python file, every time you'll have to go to the compiler or interpreter or an editor, you'll have to execute that file and then you will get the output, correct?
Yeah.
If you would have ever tried, means I am not sure, but I think I'm just saying you, uh, I think you can try this as well. In order to run a Python file, you'll have to go to the editor and run it.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the main difference between Python and other language. Python, okay. Have you heard of JavaScript?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
I know a little bit of
JavaScript,
JavaScript.
yeah, JavaScript is also an interpreted language, also called as a scripting language. Python is also an scripting language only. So scripting language are what? They are actually they are actually using an interpreter to compile their code.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you see
Yes.
JavaScript, they are actually being compiled at web interfaces, means in web application. If you write, if you open any site on in your web browser, it will easily do it for you. You don't need any separate compiler to actually execute your web pages in order to get it loaded, correct? So that's why we say that JavaScript is a scripting language or a interpreted language, because we don't need any specific JavaScript compiler for that.
Okay.
Okay. So I think there are several advantages of this scripting language or in the interpreted language, like they are portable, and also they are having dynamic typing. So you'll know what is dynamic typing and all. Okay. So bear with me now. And also there is a ease of debugging. Okay, so these are the some of the advantage. Okay, so in summary, interpreter is a program that reads and executes code written in a high level language by translating it into machine code on the fly. It is alternative to compiler and is commonly used for interpreted programming language. Okay, it is clear now. I think it is an alternative to compiler. Okay, so and also it is used by some of the interpreted programming language like Python and JavaScript and Ruby. So these are some of the language which uses interpreter in there as a compiler.
Okay.
Okay. So now I think this was related to the interpreter. So again, I think we should know about compiler as well. Okay. So the compiler is nothing, but it is also a short program, means uh, a small program which is actually there inside our computer. Okay. Means not it is not inside our computer, but we have to install it. Like for executing a Python, we have to install Python compiler. For executing on C++, we have to install C++ compiler. Okay, so I think so. They are the programs that we install in our machine, and then we write a code on top of that, and then these compilers works over those codes. Correct. So this is how it behaves. So a compiler is a program that translates source code written in a high level programming language into machine code that can be executed by a computer. Unlike an interpreter, a compiler translates the entire source code into machine code before execution. Okay, produces a standalone executable file that can run independently. Okay, so this is what I was saying. So it actually produces a independent executable, standalone executable. Okay, and it can be run independently without having your code also.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the basic difference between interpreter and compiler.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, are you getting, or it is?
Yeah, I'm getting. So this executable file, like what are you saying, right? Without the code, like where will we run the
Yeah, means
executable file?
I'll show you. Means if you compile certain codes now, I don't have that executable. Okay, I'll show you. I have it in a download. I would have downloaded some executable. So if you see here now, this is an executable Zoom installer. Okay, I'll show you this. Where is the property? Yeah. So if you see here now, the properties, what is the extension of it is .exe,
Dot
correct?
exe. Yeah.
So this is an executable. Okay. So this file that you see here, now I have downloaded it from somewhere, and this I was able to download it because it was kept at some place after executing some of the code, which is actually available with the Zoom people. I don't have that code.
Okay.
Okay, are you getting? So
Yeah.
Zoom company is having the source code. They gave me the installer, the .exe file, so that I can
Yeah.
run it multiple times.
Okay.
Okay, they compiled the code and they created this .exe,
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
and then they shared this to me, and then I'm able to. I don't know their source code, what is there in their source code. Okay, I simply have to use this application, so I'll double click on it and it will install it in a system. Correct.
Yeah.
So similarly, all the exe file works in the similar fashion. Okay, so if you are actually writing some C# language or Java application, okay, so all those applications output can be .exe file.
Okay.
Okay,
Got it.
if it is not exe file, it will be some other intermediate file which can be used anywhere.
Okay.
Got that?
Yeah.
Okay, so The compilation process involves several stages, like including lexical analysis, syntax analysis, semantic analysis, okay, code generation, optimization. The compiler reads the source code, analyzes the structure, and generates an optimized and executable output file. Okay, so these are the various stages where our code actually goes through. Okay, and after going through all these stages, at last an executable is prepared that is very optimized and that is very lightweight. Okay, and then it is given as an output to the output file. Okay, and an
Okay.
example of compiler in the GNU is the GNU compiler. Okay, collection GCC. It is also called a GCC. So this GCC compiler was actually first introduced for C language, okay, which is free and open source compiler system that supports multiple programming language, including C and C++ and Fortran, okay. So these three languages are actually compiled by this compiler, GNU compiler.
Okay.
Okay. Another example is the Microsoft Visual Studio C++ compiler, which is used to compile C++ code on Windows. So for each language, they have a separate compiler. Like for all the Microsoft related, we have a Microsoft Visual C++ compiler. Okay, clear? Yeah, so I think
Yeah.
here is a short example. This is a C code written, okay? It is actually writing to print certain hello world, okay? It is trying to print hello world into the console. So to compile this, what I'll have to do, I'll have to write this command on the command line, okay? I will be giving GCC. This is GCC is the compiler name, and I'll be instructing the GCC to compile this code, okay? Hello.c. So what it will do, it will hello.c, it will compile this hello.c. Once we actually give this command, in the backend, it will create an executable file. The command instructs GCC to compile the hello.c source code file and generates an executable file named hello. Okay, it will generate this executable file that is hello. Okay, so if you see here, it has generated a file hello or dot hello to the and once it will create this intermediate file, okay, dot hello. So now you can run it multiple times. You don't need this code. Now you can run this dot hello multiple times. It will give you the same output, hello world.
Okay.
Got that?
Yeah.
Yeah. In summary, a compiler is a program that translates high-level programming language into code, high language code into machine code that can be
That.
executed by a computer.
Yeah.
It is used to create a standalone executable files that can run independently. Okay.
Yeah.
Understood now. So
Yeah.
this was a brief intro on compiler and interpreter. Okay, and we started with a programming language. I think we completed this topic. Also, I think related to this, we have other topics as well. We'll jump to Python in the later classes. But I think okay, I'll not teach you today much, but I think we'll keep you little bit free today. And also, I'd like to I would like to listen from you, means uh, about uh, the speed or the about the way actually I'm teaching. Whether are you able to get it or you are facing any difficulty to understand any topic?
No, I'm able to get it. Yeah, everything is good.
Okay, okay. Then I think with the similar pace, I'll continue from tomorrow, and
Yeah,
I'll
sure.
be okay. I think you would not have got the syllabus which I'll be covering, so you can
Yeah.
ask them. They will give you the topics which I'll be covering throughout the session. Okay, and
Okay.
uh, the instructions, one instructions that I would like to give. So before coming to the class, I think you should also have some background knowledge over the topic so that it
Oh,
is
yeah.
very easy for you to ask the question. Because if I'm
Yeah,
teaching you
sure.
something new and you don't know anything about that topic, so I think it will be one-way communication. I'll be telling and you will be listening. You'll not be asking any question because you don't have any
Yeah,
knowledge.
yeah, yeah.
Correct?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I wanted two-way. So like if I'm writing something, if I'm writing some line of one line of code, I think you should be ready with the questions like why you have written such line, this line of code, and why not in this way. So such kind of questions I think you may ask if you have the
Oh,
prior knowledge on the topic. Correct?
yeah.
Mm.
So, they will be sharing the syllabus, right? Or do you also
Correct.
have it?
Yeah, yeah, no, no. They will be sharing you the syllabus. You can ask them. Definitely, they will share you. Okay. Uh,
Okay.
Yeah, and go through those topics. Just try to get means what you know, what you don't know, what you are more interested to learn. So all these things you can come and tell me in the next class. And yeah, means I'm interested in this topic and I wanted to learn these topics mainly, because there are many, means all the from core to advanced, all the topics are covered. But I think all the topics might not be important for you, correct?
Yeah,
Uh, there may be certain area which are actually where your interest lies, so you can tell me definitely about that, and we'll be mainly focusing on that, and based on your choice we'll be actually covering the topics, correct?
sure. Yeah.
So we'll close for the day and we'll continue from tomorrow if you are interested, correct?
Yeah. Tomorrow it's the same time, right?
No, yeah, about the timing also I wanted to discuss. So when are you free? In the morning? Okay, sorry, in the Indian time, in the morning. So it will be night for you, correct?
Evening for, yeah.
Evening for you. So like if I tell you Indian time, 8 to 9 or 9 to 10, will that be good for you?
Evening time.
Yeah, for you it is evening.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, so wait, means Indian time I'll tell that is 8 to 9 or 9 to 10. Anything is okay for you.
Yeah.
Okay, then I think it should you can keep it 8 to sorry 9 to 10.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
9 to 10 you can inform them. Yeah, you are comfortable with 9 to 10 in morning, correct?
Okay.
Morning for me, evening for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so then thanks for the day. I think it was uh, actually an interactive session, and I wanted like this only, and hope that it will continue in the further sessions also. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah. I'll get the syllabus from them.
Sure, sure. Yeah, you can ask them.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.